Could you tell me your name?
My name is Eugenia Welch.
And do I have permission to record a conversation and share with the world?
Yes.
Awesome.
The whole world?
Well, whoever listens.
Sure.
Hola, manis. Welcome back to Café con Pam, where we share our stories over cafecito. Yo soy Pam Covarrubias, and we bring you inspiring historias from first-generation Latinas and people of the global majority. No se te olvide, subscribe, hit the like button, and ring the bell so you never miss our cafecito time. Y bueno, for more incredible stories, tune into Café con Pam, our podcast también. Today's episode is brought to you by Nomono, the traveling sound capsule que nos acompaña durante nuestro in-person tour. Today, I am joined by two incredible leaders from Alzheimer San Diego. The president and CEO, Eugenia Welch, sorry. I read it in Spanish. Eugenia Welch and dementia educator, Nellie Hernandez. Alzheimer San Diego is dedicated to supporting the community with critical resources, education, and compassionate care for those affected by Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. With over 84,000 people in San Diego County specifically currently living with Alzheimer's, their work is vital. Today, we're going to be talking about the various programs, all the incredible support they offer, including caregiver education, memory screenings, and of course, their commitment to accessible care for everyone. I got the amazing opportunity to go visit them in their office, and let me tell you, it's awesome. And it's even more awesome what they do, not only for the people dealing with Alzheimer and dementia, but also for the caregivers. So, sin más, here's my conversation with the folks at Alzheimer San Diego. Well, Nelly, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, gracias por estar aquí.
Gracias por compartir y por tu trabajo. Tell us something that in the Latino community, we don't talk about many things. Bruno is real.
That's what we were just speaking about.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to aging. And I feel like many times we focus a lot on the external.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to memoria, when it comes to caregiving, we are many times caregivers. We live in multi-generational households, but we still don't talk about memory loss. We don't talk about aging. Tell me more what you see.
Yeah, you're right. We don't talk about all of it. It's scary. And I think that's the primary reason we don't talk about it is it's scary. We're not used to it. And because we're not used to it, pues no sabemos dónde ir. And more importantly, ¿cómo es posible que salgamos de la casa para preguntarle a alguien más or just say, hey, I think something's changing. What can it possibly be? And just with this alone, not being able to talk about it, we definitely don't stop to think that we need to go forward and get any type of medical attention.
Totally. When do you think, because we come from families that live in multi-generational houses. I live in one.
I do too.
You know, when should we notice or start talking about this? Because I feel like, especially when it comes to Alzheimer, it could take a long time until we see symptoms. And so when do you recommend families to start having the conversation around, let's check your brain?
I would say you probably already are familiar with a lot of the risk factors, but I would say being familiar with the risk factors, that right now we would say that, okay, usually Latinos are talking about, oh, we have high blood pressure. Oh, we need to be worried about diabetes. Yeah. Oh, we need to be worried about what we're cooking, what we're eating. But guess what? All of those things are risk factors. So what we need to probably stop and think about is, pues si ya sé que puede pasar, ¿qué es lo que tengo que hacer para reducir esos riesgos? And that's the thing that we don't talk about. And that alone is already preparing us to reduce the risk factors of dementia. So for example, I often talk to people about, hey, do you have high blood pressure? And they start saying, oh yeah, well, you know what? You're more at risk. Have you ever heard about vascular dementia? And they say no. Did you ever hear about mixed dementia? Because you can have more than one dementia. Oh, you told me that you had an accident. That's a risk factor. Trauma to the brain. You probably should start thinking about if you're seeing any changes. So we need to know the risk factors, saber cuáles son los riesgos. Y aparte de eso, saber qué vamos a empezar a hacer o qué ya estamos haciendo para reducir esos riesgos. Y comenzar también a entender cómo todo conecta. And that's, again, scary. Because all we're really talking about is like, oh, well, we have high blood pressure. We just need to lose weight. No, we need to understand how does nutrition help us reduce the risk factors. We're not saying that you're going to cut everything out of your meal. We're just saying understand what you're putting into your body. Understand that it's okay to ask questions. A lo menos es importante poder tener la confianza de decir, ¿sabes qué? Es nuevo para mí. No entiendo nada, no sé nada, ¿y qué es lo que voy a hacer?
And what would you say to because I hear, like, I can totally hear my tías say, like, pues yo no voy a dejar de comer, like, what feels good, because YOLO. Or,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
O tengo una tía que, por ejemplo, she's like, o sea, yo prefiero disfrutar hoy y sufro mañana. What would you say to those people?
I would say still understand what you're putting into your body. No es que se tiene que parar de comer ciertas comidas. Es de tratar de entender cómo esa comida afecta a tu cuerpo, porque todos los cuerpos son diferentes. Aunque estemos pasando por alta presión o diabetes, o que hayamos pasado una trauma, o que tenemos una enfermedad genética, de todos modos, your body is different. So it's really still understanding how is that food maybe affecting your body. And no, I don't want you to give it up. Oh, I don't want you to go sign up to go to the gym. I'm scared of the gym. Como que hablas del gimnasio y todos corren, ¿no?
Claro.
Queremos a recordarles que todos que necesitamos hablar de otras maneras. Movimiento. ¿Cómo vamos a darle la nutrición a nuestro cuerpo? ¿Cómo vamos a asegurarnos que no esté deshidratado el cuerpo? Porque agua es tan importante a nuestro bienestar y a nuestra salud. Así es que le diría a tu tía, eso no se trata de hacer un cambio drástico. Eso se trata de, primeramente, hay que tener la plática. Y hay que tratar de entender que Alzheimer's, el tipo de demencia más común, no hay cura ahorita. Ojalá que un día sí, pero ahorita no. Pero necesitamos platicar más y tener la confianza de decir, ¿sabes qué? Esto no es normal, no es parte del envejecimiento. Y en la cultura latina ya sabes que le dices, oye, es como que algo está cambiando con la tía, ¿no? ¿Y qué pasa? Tú dices, déjala, es que ya está viejita. Sí. No le digas, tienes que, tú la respétala. En realidad, si de veras quieres darle más respeto, ten la conversación. Ten la conversación de que, ¿sabe qué, tía? Vamos a intentar de hacer que haga una prueba cognitiva. A ver si algo está cambiando o para que usted lo use de punto de referencia. Es lo que no sabemos, ¿verdad? Que esas pruebas cognitivas son gratuitas, especialmente aquí en nuestra organización. Así es que si no sabes dónde empezar, empieza con eso.
Algo también muy importante que yo leí es the importance of stimulus, of like you do activities, group activities. Y es, I think sometimes when we have the in-between generation, no sé si has escuchado, ¿no? It's like people that are taking care of children and people that are taking care of older adults. And so these people are often the caregivers, are also often juggling multiple things.
Or different types of caregivers.
Correct. And so tell me of the various things, and there's so many events that Alzheimer San Diego puts together. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So all the events that go on at Alzheimer San Diego, of course, they're helpful to everyone. Because in order for us to reduce the risk factors, we want to stay social. We want to stay connected. We want to stay interacting. And people say, well, why? There's a lot of reasons why, but here's a few. Number one, what a great way to try to create a new habit in your life that's positive, right? What a great way to learn something, maybe something new. What a great way for you to also share your story and reduce your stress. What a great way for you to get out and explore what your community might offer as a resource. All of which are things to reduce your own risk of dementia. And we want to keep that heart pumping. We want that. What is good for your heart is good for your brain. We want that blood flowing to your brain. So Alzheimer San Diego not only offers activities here every Friday for somebody that cares for somebody. And here's back to what you were saying. Sometimes folks are different types of caregivers in their life, but guess what? Como Latinos, we don't identify as a caregiver. Right. We just say, oh, pues
eso hacemos.
Eso lo hacemos. Ahí estamos con la familia, tenemos que dar el cuidado porque pues nos tocó. You don't question it. But in reality is we're different types of caregivers sometimes. So again, it's helpful not only for the caregiver, but it's also helpful to have a routine with the person that is actually going through changes because they want, and we want, that person to still be able to access what we call the cognitive reserve. So whatever's functioning in there, we want to keep it functioning. So we want people to come to activities on Fridays. We want them to go out to the social outings that they don't have to pay for. All you got to do is meet them there, register, meet them there, and enjoy the activity with whatever it is they're doing. So, and not only that, but every year in October, we have our once a year annual fundraiser, which we all get together and walk. And folks say, no, pues, ¿cómo que eso de la caminata? Like, that's too many people. We don't do that. But what a great way for you to honor your own work. Yeah. What a great way for you to honor the work that you do for others. And what a great way for you to honor the people that are going through this journey. Y sobre todo, pues, sabemos que la gente latina junto puede más. Pero si no tenemos la confianza de reunirnos también, because let's be realistic, Latinos afuera de la casa también, it could turn around. That día could be like, no sales de la calle.
Claro.
Así es que la caminata, what a great way to get together, come out, spend the morning celebrating each other, celebrating the accomplishments that we make it. Because what I really like to tell everybody is like, this is about learning how to modify what we do so we can give the best support possible cuando esos síntomas se siente que esto ya no se puede y es imposible. And why not find, this is another great way for us to reduce our stress.
Claro.
Share a community. Hug. Exactly. Share a hug, share a smile, share a laugh. And a Father's Field también, pues la realidad es share your complaints.
Sí, pues así you can connect with other people that could at least resonate.
Yes.
And be like, oh
yeah,
I'm the same.
I am going through the same thing.
Totally.
Exactly. And it just gives us a sense of collecting some type of energy that just keeps us moving forward. Because it's not easy. That's often the biggest thing that I say. Listen, you're coming to meet with me, you're probably going to hear things you already know. Algunas cosas te van a caer de sorpresa, vas a aprender algo. Mayoría de las cosas ya lo has escuchado. Pero esta enfermedad desafortunadamente nos pide que sigamos con el apoyo de alguien más. And that's another thing, you know, some people don't feel like they can go to familia or somebody else for apoyo. So come to Alzheimer San Diego.
Claro.
They can get support one-on-one. Pueden platicar con alguien que les pueda dar más guianza, conectarlos con otros recursos. Y sobre todo, es tan importante de platicar sobre el recurso porque no se tiene que preocupar uno de que tiene que pagar. O que ser elegible. Or that you need to wait your turn because you don't have the specific type of insurance that we take. No se tiene que preocupar uno de eso.
Todo el mundo es bienvenido.
Así es que este recurso es para cualquiera que tenga necesidad de decir, ¿sabes qué? ¿Dónde voy? ¿Quién me puede ayudar?
I love that. Tell me about your role.
I'm a dementia educator.
Okay.
So I'm the one that gets to go out into the community and say, hey, where are you at? What is helpful for you to learn? Porque también eso es otra cosa que pues como latinos es tanto que aprender, pero no lo tenemos que aprender todo a la misma vez.
O solos, ¿no?
O solos. I love those little bits that we can drop off and be like, you know what? This little bit is going to make my life a lot easier, your life a lot easier, and the life of the person that's going through all these symptoms because they don't feel good. They can't control it. Those symptoms that they're going through is not personal. They're not doing us to hurt us. Una cosa que quería mencionarte es que como latinos a veces lo que escucho es, pues yo noto que está pasando algo, no sé qué es, no sé qué preguntar, pero como que se está haciendo, porque a veces como que sabe y a veces
no.
Sí. Pero estoy aquí para decirte, no nos vamos a preocupar de eso, porque no es para que tú tomes el tiempo de decir, acuérdate que te dijeron, existe existe el término que se llama anosognosia. Y los invito a todos que se vengan a reunir con nosotros en una clase educativa, ¿no? Para que sepan de veras que ese término puede darte más información en por qué a veces la persona está pasando por como que sabe, pero que no sabe. ¿Quiere aceptarlo o no quiere aceptarlo? Existe eso, anosognosia, que no deja a la persona que se sienta como que de veras está pasando un cambio.
Que las personas no aceptan. Así como que se está haciendo. Hoy se hace y mañana no.
So, existe ese término, anosognosia. Y cuando hablamos de eso, como que a veces pues la lucecita se prende, ¿no?
Claro. Wow. Entonces, cuéntame de algún success story. If you, like, of course, confidentiality, pero que alguien que tú hayas conocido que estaba así como que en ese denial tal vez y después algo pasó a través de todos los recursos que ofrecen que now they're thriving.
Ok. Bueno, se me vienen muchos, pero que eso es algo bueno, ¿verdad? Primeramente, una vez conocí a una señora y esta señora todavía estaba, tenía la capacidad todavía de reconocer que estaba pasando por cambios ella misma.
Wow.
Así es que ella pudo conectarse con el recurso para planificar para ella misma porque ella no estaba segura si de veras tenía una red de apoyo como es necesario.
Sí, claro.
Así es que se comunicó con Alzheimer San Diego que pudo platicar con alguien que le puede decir, ok, mientras estás preparando, bueno, planificando para lo que puede venir, estas son las cosas que vamos a poner en práctica mientras van pasando los años, porque ya sabemos que tras los años va progresando los síntomas. Así es que se pudo conectar con alguien que la conectó con el programa de enviarle un voluntario entrenado que se comunique con ella, que pase tiempo con ella y le da la oportunidad que el voluntario también mira qué estará pasando que la señora no se da cuenta. Y asegurarse que puedan implementar un recurso que le pueda ayudar con esa necesidad. Okay. Así es que la señora ya tiene años aquí con Alzheimer San Diego, pero pudo hacer su red de apoyo.
Wow.
Puede planificar qué va a necesitar cuando ella ya no pueda manejar. Alguien la va a tener que transbordar, ¿verdad? Pudo comunicarse no nomás con un voluntario, pero con otros recursos que necesitaba. Viviendo sola, van a cambiar cosas que no va a poder hacer sola para que alguien venga también y le ayude en casa.
Claro.
Okay, eso es un ejemplo. Ahora, una persona que conocí también, una familia linda, Así es que eso es la cosa, que trabajamos con tantas
Sí,
personas
me
tan
imagino.
lindas. Esa persona, la esposa, su esposo estaba pasando por un tipo de demencia reciente y desafortunadamente esta persona también estaba pasando por duelo
Mm,
de otra familiar que había pasado. ¿Y qué pasa? Esta casa ahí también vivía su hija. Así es que pudieron ellos comunicarse con nuestro programa, comenzar a entender qué era demencia, darse cuenta que el señor ya había tenido síntomas que estaban pasando hace años, como lo mencionaste,
wow.
pero también les dio la oportunidad de tener esas sesiones educativas, conectarse con un grupo de apoyo que como latinos,
Claro, es
who
súper.
does that?
Right,
We don't connect to a support group.
right.
¿Cómo es que yo voy a ir a platicarles de mi situación?
Sí,
¿Quiénes son ellos que les voy a compartir qué dolor o qué estoy sufriendo yo?
claro.
¿Ok? Y sí, como dijiste, invítame a la fiesta, boom, ahí estoy.
Right.
But not a support group. So they got connected to the support group. They got connected to social activities. They got connected to the social connections that we have. But most importantly, every day they started breaking the stigma for Latinos. Why? Because the wife was learning about herself. The wife was learning how her caregiver role was always going to be changing.
Claro.
The wife was able to work with her daughter and learning how to better care for not only herself, but her dad, her mom, her children, and even more so, que como familia latina, que le pudieron empezar a platicar eso también a los nietos que vivían allí.
Claro, porque entendieran esos
Talk
cambios.
about breaking stigma.
Totally. I
So
love that.
that family for me is like amazing because that's what we want to do. We want to be able to just say, ven para acá, hay que platicar, porque lo que vamos a platicar, pues no vamos a salir todos aquí bien gozosos, pero en todo era, todos ganaron.
Claro.
And I think as an organization, what a huge win
That is a
to
huge
be
one.
able to support that family in that manner.
I love that.
Yeah.
Bueno, Nelly, muchas gracias por tu trabajo.
Sí,
Thank you for
gracias.
sharing those stories. ¿Algo más que quieras agregar que no platicamos?
No, nada más que aquí estamos para servirles, ¿verdad? Pero con toda confianza en realidad.
En inglés y en español.
Y se puede venir a platicar, nos reímos porque decimos en inglés o en español, pero en realidad se nos olvida que cuando una persona pasa por demencia, habla inglés ahora, pero quizás mañana no va a
Igual
hablar
se le-
inglés,
Wow.
solamente va a hablar en español.
Claro.
And I'll talk about that being something important for Latinos.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all your work.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
It's a joy. I love what I do.
So, Eugenia, tell me about the organization. What's your role?
Sure. I'm the president and CEO of Alzheimer San Diego. So we are a local independent nonprofit to serve the community of San Diego County. So we are really here to provide support to anyone dealing with or affected by Alzheimer's or any form of dementia in San Diego County. So it could be that we're helping the person with the disease themselves or the spouse, friend, partner, child of someone living with dementia.
I think it's super important because many times we think it's just the person going through it, but it's all the ecosystem that gets affected.
It really is. It's a full family disease. And really most are, because if you're, if someone you care about is affected by a disease, it's going to impact your life as well. But this disease, I think more than any other, it really is the whole family, because at some point, the person with the disease is no longer able to make decisions for themselves.
Yeah.
And so, that period of time where the person can't make decisions for themselves could go on for years.
Yeah.
And so the rest of the family really has to pitch in, or friend group, or whatever the situation might be.
And you've been in the space for a long time.
I have. So I've been at Alzheimer's San Diego since 2018. But prior to that, I worked in the residential care industry. So I was the executive director of a residential care community for about 24 years.
So you've seen firsthand how families get affected.
Yes, and I've had 2 family members that died of Alzheimer's also. So I've seen it from all sides.
And one thing that Alzheimer's San Diego has a big focus on, first of all, we're a border town,
Yes.
a border city, which includes a lot of back and forth bilingual people. So you have a huge focus on Latinos.
Absolutely.
And something that's wild, let me make sure I get my stat right. 196% increase from 2019 to 2040 in the number of Latinos over the age of 65 with dementia. So the numbers are increasing.
They are.
Tell me more about that.
So I think there's a few reasons for it. One of the things about Alzheimer's and dementia is that it's been historically very hard to get a diagnosis. So just that number increasing, it's going to sound strange, but it's a good thing in that people are actually getting a diagnosis, because there has been so much stigma around Alzheimer's. It's seen as a mental illness. People don't want to talk about it. People don't want to admit to it. So that's a good thing. But also we're just seeing, because people maybe don't have the same level of access to medical care early on, maybe preventative care, that then there's an increase in what's being diagnosed later on.
And one thing that I read was that symptoms, or actually like the 2 cells that help the neurons, could die like decades before.
Right.
And so how early should people start paying attention?
I mean, I think people should always be paying attention. We have guidelines that you get a mammogram after the age of 40, you get a colonoscopy after the age of 50, I think it is now, whatever. But we don't have baseline memory screening until there's an issue. And it's such an easy thing to do. It doesn't take that long. What's the harm in having a baseline memory screening at a certain age? And that way you know, and you can see when there are changes. If you don't know what the baseline is, how can you know that there are changes? The different memory screenings have different types of tests and, quizzes on them. But one of the common ones has some math. But if you've never been good at math, is that really a good test of your memory? Is it memory, or it's just not your strength? So I suggest that people have a baseline memory screening and maybe do it every year, starting at a specific age. But the other thing is that very often people, when they do start having memory issues, they just, push it to the side or write it off. They don't really want to think about it, which is understandable.
Yeah, it's kind of, Nellie was mentioning the stigma of like, well, I'm just not going to talk about it.
Right.
Do you think people notice it themselves, or is it the external people that may see it first? What have you seen?
I think it's both. But I think in the very early stages, it's easy to write it off as stress, or I didn't get enough sleep, or, I've got too many things on my mind. I think also people think that it's normal to start forgetting things as you get older. But memory loss is not a normal part of aging. So it's really...
Let's say that again.
Memory loss is not a normal part of aging. I've known people in their late 90s whose memories are very sharp. So it's keeping in tune with the different things that are changing and happening. And it's not... Everybody thinks, oh, I forgot my keys. I don't know where my keys are. Is it Alzheimer's? And that's not what it is. It's when you have your keys in your hand, but you don't know what to do with them. It's the person who has always been meticulous about paying their bills on time and being organized who starts forgetting to pay bills and things aren't happening that normally would. That's when you need to really pay attention.
So it's an exercise of self-awareness and also others around. So like you said, it's a complete family affair.
Right.
That everyone needs to pay attention. Something that you mentioned that it made me think about the cognitive test, and how in San Diego and many other places in the US, we get a lot of people, because there's migrants.
Yeah, sure.
And so many times education levels differ. And so like maybe the math test is not going to be like quite accurate. What has Alzheimer San Diego do to improve that?
I mean, we haven't been able to develop a new memory test or anything, but it's really here, we like to focus on the individual and talking with the individual, meeting with the individual family and seeing what their situation is. I mean, we are not able to diagnose people, but we can give them recommendations and help them to seek a proper diagnosis or communicate better with their physician that way. But the other thing is people don't have to have any sort of diagnosis to come to us to get assistance. That's not what we're about. You know, we're not charging anyone's insurance, so it doesn't matter if there's a true diagnosis. People can just come to us, tell us what's going on, and we can help give them tools and support to work through the situation.
Yeah, because advocacy is so important. Yeah. And have you seen people that may come and be like, well, I'm noticing changes, but my doctor says it's okay?
Sure.
And so do you provide resources so people would like learn more and advocate for themselves?
We do. We have a lot of education classes just so that people can really understand what dementia is, what the different types of dementia are, how to deal with it, how to talk about it amongst your family.
Even family members could write it off. They could be like, oh, you're just aging.
Totally. I mean, you have somebody who comes in and maybe a daughter calls us and said, I'm seeing all these things with my mom. And the other sister, the other daughter comes in and says, that's not true. She's fine. You know, and I think that's the thing about Alzheimer's dementia is every day is different.
Yeah.
And that's, I also think, how people delay going to a doctor or getting a diagnosis, because there are good days and bad days. And you have a couple bad days, so you schedule an appointment. Then you have a couple good days and you're like, oh, we don't need to do that anymore, so we can cancel it. But yeah, there's a lot of, well, mom doesn't do that when I'm around, and that's not going on when I'm there.
Wow.
So there's a lot of division sometimes in families. It's hard to accept. It's really hard to accept. I've worked in this arena for my entire career. And you understand and you know, but when it's your person that's been there since before you were you, and they aren't remembering and aren't recognizing and aren't, you know, it's tough. It's tough because you can logically know exactly what's going on, but in your heart, it's hard.
For sure. And so Alzheimer's San Diego provides resources for the patient, or what do you call it? Like the client and the family.
Absolutely.
Tell me about the services that people can access.
Sure. So Alzheimer's, there's no survivor yet, hopefully someday. So we all know it can be a very dark topic and a dark disease. And what we like to focus on is how to guide people to live well with the disease. So I mentioned our education classes. There are a lot about how to, you know, make things easier at home, how to make caring for someone with the disease easier, and how to communicate. So there's that. That's a big part of it. But we also have our clinical care staff. And one of the things that's great about that is people can call in and speak to a social worker. And that's not readily available in our healthcare system. And so to have that here and have it be available for free, people often call in and will say, this is what's going on, or my spouse was just diagnosed, what do I do? And they'll talk to a clinical care coach and get a game plan. Sometimes we don't hear from them again, but some people call us every time there's a change in condition or every time there's a new symptom. Some people call once or twice a week because they need a little pep talk, whatever it might be. And that's totally fine. It's free. Yeah. It's all free. But that support is really so important because you don't get it anywhere else.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we also have a range of social activities. One of the other things about caring for somebody at home with dementia is if you're the care partner, you are the cook and the cleaner and the full-time entertainment, and it's all on you. So for families to be able to come into our office or go on one of our outings and spend a couple hours with other people who are in their same situation, it's very freeing. People left to their own devices tend to maybe not go out as much or isolate more because they're worried about, well, what if I bring my mom and she has a strange behavior or something happens? I don't want her to be embarrassed or whatever it might be. But when you're in a group, it doesn't really come up as much.
Totally.
It's a safe place.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking even like one of my aunts who takes care of my grandma, but she also has a special needs kid. And so it's this, who do I take care of? And oftentimes grandma stays home, you know, because there's a like wheelchair and walker and taking care of the kid.
And is there going to be a bathroom close by? And can I get the wheelchair in there? And all those things. But here, it's all okay.
Totally.
I was also going to mention, we have a great program called All's Companions, where we recruit and train volunteers to then go out to the home. So you were saying your aunt cares for your grandma.
Right.
We can train volunteers to come out to the home. And that way, someone who's caring for someone with dementia in their home, they can get a break every week for about 4 hours. They can go to a movie. They could go to the grocery store. Sometimes people just go take a nap.
Yeah.
But it's just a few hours a week where they don't have to be on.
Yeah.
You know, they can be off duty. And one of our volunteers is there.
And this is no charge.
No charge.
All people need to do is go to your site, request it.
Yep, absolutely.
I love that. Tell us other places and spaces where we can find you.
We are easy to find on the website, alzsd.org. You can always call us at 858-492-4400. And we're here to provide whatever assistance we can.
I love that. So we have a global audience. For those who are not in San Diego, do you direct them to their place, or do you just recommend people like searching for Alzheimer local city?
Yeah. We are local to San Diego, but the great thing is, there have to be some silver linings from the pandemic. And one of them is that because we switched everything online, we have most of our education classes recorded and are available online.
Nice.
So whereas we serve San Diego County, anybody from anywhere in the world can go on our website and check out those videos and learn more about Alzheimer's and how the disease affects people.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. For sure.
The other thing that's really cool is because of the pandemic, we have another program called Vitals. 25% of people with some form of Alzheimer's or dementia live alone.
Wow.
Yeah. So in San Diego County, we know there's about 100,000 people diagnosed with dementia. So that's about 25,000 people with dementia who are living alone.
Wow.
And that's early dementia. People who live alone can do very well for a long time in their routine, in their space. But one of the programs we put in place during the pandemic is called Vitals. And what that is we have volunteers who call people and check in. And the person living at home can decide how frequently they want to get checked on. So a couple times a week, every day, once a week, whatever it is. We actually have volunteers from all around the world who do that because people want to do things and, virtual volunteer opportunities are hard to come by. So we've had people from China and Germany and Japan and the East Coast and all over who will call and check on people here in San Diego County. It's a pretty neat thing.
How cool.
Yeah.
And so they just call and check on it, and do they have a conversation, or is it like a quick?
Yeah.
Nice.
Some of the calls are just, hey, how are you doing today? Very brief. Sometimes it might be 10 or 15 minutes of catch up. It all just depends.
How fun. So needed.
Yeah.
Because I think especially people that live alone, it must be lonely to just...
Well, lonely, right, live alone. And it's not just live alone, but we have a lot of people who, maybe never had children, never married. And, we call them solo agers. They're sort of left on their own with just a friend support system, which as you age, it's harder to depend on your friends because they're going through maybe some of the same things. So really having those supports for people and having somebody check in on them to make sure they're okay.
Totally. Yeah, I think the hardest part probably is to reach out for help first.
Absolutely.
But once they're in. And I also love your programs, your in-person programs where people can come and socialize. Because I know I read socialization. So food and cognitive stimulation,
yeah,
is important.
Yep.
And
so we have social activities here in the office every Friday. So Friday morning and Friday afternoon, it's either an exercise class or music or art or Tai Chi, whatever it might be. We also have a baseball reminiscing program that happens here in the office. And then visits out to different places, the Tijuana Estuary, museums in Balboa Park. We go to the Helen Woodward Animal Center frequently because pet therapy is so important.
So good, yeah.
That one's always sold out. Not sold out because we don't sell tickets, but it's always full. So yeah, lots of different things for people to do.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for your work.
Thank you for having us and for helping us get the word out. That's what it's all about.
It's really important.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to, and remember to share this story with todo mundo, whoever you think this would resonate with. If you are in San Diego, definitely check out Alzheimer San Diego. This is something that my grandma, for example, she lives in Los Angeles, and after we finished our conversation, I asked the team, hey, is this everywhere? And they said there are different chapters in different cities. So definitely, if you're not in San Diego, search for Alzheimer, whatever your city is, and see if there's an organization that is like this one, which I think is amazing. As I am growing older and I know I'm approaching that age where I'm seeing the elders in my family just get a little bit older or continue to age. And I know there's a huge need for support for caregivers, because there's also, we need to talk about the aging process. We need to talk about us figuring out, not just taking on, which you heard me talk to Alzheimer's San Diego about, is yes, we take care of our people, but we also must talk about what's happening. And organizations like Alzheimer's San Diego are great to give you the resources, the language. Sometimes it's, I don't even know how to start. And they have incredible programs and various tools to give you to support you in this process as you may be embarking into the caregiving space. Bueno, muchísimas gracias for stopping by. And I hope you return. For all of our stories, go to cafeconpam.com. Stay shining. Soy Pam Corrubias y nos vemos en nuestro próximo cafecito.
Sabrosura pa' ti que